What's going on, people? We are back with another episode helping our moms, dads, aunts, uncles, and weekend warriors understand their body and expedite the results in a safe and efficient manner. With that said, last week we talked about boxers and some of the issues that they deal with, whether that be back pains, hip pains, knee pains. And Antonio broke down some of the exercise that you can do to tend to them. And today we'll focus specifically on baseball players and some of the things that he sees in working with that population, whether that be injuries and strength training. So with that said, Antonio, good morning. What's going on?
Hey, good morning. Yeah. So
Baseball
uh,
player.
yeah. So today we'll talk more about the baseball athlete, the baseball player, and that goes for anybody playing even softball, playing baseball from t-ball, to high school, to college, to just recreational, to even just playing in adult leagues and stuff like that. So anyone who's listening or has any sort of relationship to someone who plays, and overhead is something that you kind of need with throwing and that shoulder motion and stuff like that. So this is definitely relatable to many different people who just kind of get into it and stuff like that. So number one, what I see is definitely from more the younger population, early high school, maybe late middle school, but early high school. We see that they don't really stretch at all. They don't really work into their flexibility. And we know, like we mentioned in the past, how important certain areas of the body are designed for mobility, right? So like the hips are designed to be nice and mobile. Obviously your shoulder, right, is designed to move a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And what we see sometimes is, they don't have the required motion in the hip to get the best out of their sport or out of throwing. So they quickly kind of just go right into, they'll do like a basic warm up, or sometimes they won't stretch at all, or they'll think like this is a stretch for 30 seconds, and I'm warmed up. But I think going a little bit beyond that and making sure that they do have the required movement to go overhead. I see that they tend to get a little stiff with those motions. So I'll definitely see that as kind of the foundation to preventing injuries. Just simply just making sure that you're having a proper warm up, proper routine that you're doing before throwing. And again, this specifically for the youngsters who are in high school and maybe the early high school player, but as well for the adult who's about to throw with his son outside or something like that. Just spend some time going through just more than just one or two stretches. Get a nice warm up in there so you're able to really benefit from the activity. So that's kind of the area that I want to focus on is our preparation, right? Preparation is key. So getting into our mobility stretches, building up a little sweat, getting warmed up, doing some core stuff, all those things, I would say, before we talk about common injuries, let's talk about how do we prevent those common injuries? Because of course, every sport has their common injuries, but let's even go a little bit before that and say, well, how can we plan so we prevent these common injuries from happening? And if it's you're looking at building up a nice sweat, a nice little warm up, then you go into some mobility drills just to loosen up, and then you go into some activation for core and whatever joint you're using. I feel like those three are a better routine to prevent injuries than just kind of wait for the injury to happen and say, oh, well, shoulder injuries are common. Here's some shoulder stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I love what you're saying about building up a sweat. I was telling my clients yesterday that if they're not working out with me, when prior to their exercise, they should have a film on their body. They should be building up just a slight sweat before activation. And they're like, oh, I don't have the time for that. That's too much. That's its own workout in itself. I'm like, well, this is long-term health and longevity is what you need to be doing is building up a sweat prior to your exercise. So I love that you say that. Even the
Yeah.
young kids, especially the young kids, they're still elastic, so they don't really have too much concern. They don't have any aches and pains yet, but those things accumulate long term to when they're in their mid 30s to where they start having all these aches and pains. So start early, start stretching.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing is you know, but it's like it's knowing how to do it, knowing why you're stretching, knowing which areas you need to stretch, what stretch to do in general, right? Which where to go, because that's the point. Like, not many people know where they need to stretch or how they need to do it. So I think, you know, letting kind of getting more specific with that will help them, because yeah, you can easily just say, yeah, you know, warm up a little bit, stretch and activate. Well, you know, what the heck does that mean, right? It's like, you know,
Mhm.
so we have to provide that for them, and you know, instill that in them every time they're out there, so that it becomes you know, you want to you want to just get that out there at nauseum, so they just hear that constantly from you, saying that warm up, build up the sweat, where's your mobility at, and also activate. And you just keep repeating those three things to them, and now, you know, we kind of get that to the coaches, we give that to their parents, and everyone kind of is on board on that as well. So it's good communication throughout the the whole team who's controlling it.
Absolutely. So now let's say I'm a pitcher. I'm a pitcher. I'm pitching. You know, I'm a starting pitcher. I'm not a relief pitcher. I'm working like maybe every other 5 days. Maybe I'm a senior in high school. Um, do you have the names of certain stretches that I should be doing when I enter into either your facility or even on my own pre-game? Are there some stretches that you would recommend right now off the rip that I can maybe put some links and some clips to that they can see and go ahead and follow?
So I definitely like the if you type up hip cars, controlled articular rotations, hip cars. If you search shoulder cars, those are two really good ones. I would start there, because those are going to be there's a lot to unpack with those. And what they're doing is, you know, in pitchers especially, in pitchers, honestly, we see that they have a lot of mobility, but they can't control it. So for a pitcher, and the two stretches I gave you is just like general, kind of, not specifically for a pitcher, but just someone who, you know, is an athlete and can benefit from hip and shoulder stretching and stuff like that. That's definitely a good area to start. Now to kind of get a little more specific for a pitcher, most of the pitchers we see have a lot of motion, right? Because they're here all the time, and they actually develop a lot of mobility from the act of throwing. But what we see now is they don't have the strength to stabilize in that position. Essentially, they're throwing, but they're not really they're overworking the muscles here, because they have a lot of mobility to control, but they don't have the strength to control all what's going on up here.
Mm-hmm.
So what do? Well, I get them up here, and I have them kind of hold this position, maybe with like a ball in their hand, have them do like figure eights a little bit, have them go against the wall. If the wall's in front of me, I have them kind of stabilize back and forth, keeping the elbow locked out, and just like slow rhythmic kind of movements, just kind of building that stability around the shoulder joint.
Mm-hmm.
What I also like is, say if I'm on my stomach and I have like a block underneath my elbow, I'll do like lift offs here. Start here, lift off, hold it for like 10 seconds, and then back down. Just so I'm really owning that position, of that laid back position. When I'm throwing, I have to this is called the laid back position. You know, I have to get to that position, but do I have the proper development of my rotator cuff to get to that position? So that's when these come in play, where you just like go in your stomach, you're laying on your stomach, and you just lift your hand off the floor, elbow stays on the floor, and you just hold that position, you know, 10 seconds, 10 times. And that's a good indicator of your rotator cuff imbalance. You know, do you have that proper motion? Because a lot of pitchers, I'll take them passively. I'm like, wow, you have all that motion. Oh, awesome. And then they try to do it on their own, and they're like, you know, they can't even get there. Yep. So that's a strength issue.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I see, we'll move it down from the shoulder. we'll move it down further down into the elbow. One of the things that I've grown up with my own experiences is dealing with a lot of elbow pains. You have Tommy John surgeries and things like that. What sort of things do you deal with when working with the elbows and
Yeah,
coming across people with elbow issues?
absolutely. So with elbow, so we have to look at wrist supination, which is just like palms up,
Mm-hmm.
and elbow extension. So those are the two areas we want to see. Okay, so wrist extension, which is see my wrist kind of, I'm a little tight. It should be kind of more straighter. And elbow extension. So these two areas, right? Elbow extension and wrist extension. These are two areas that we see are extremely tight in baseball players.
Mm-hmm.
They get this like forearm tightness. It's like a ball of knots right in there.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's an area that we locate with a lot of our pitchers and throwers who experience elbow pain. So we'll go to the wrist. Sometimes I won't even look at. I mean, I'll focus on elbow stuff, and we'll definitely kind of loosen up around the elbow. Make sure that it's getting a little bit better, and maybe do some soft tissue there, and some isometrics for tricep, maybe elbow flexion, build up their tolerance to the tendon around the joint there with maybe some isometrics.
Mm-hmm.
But I will be looking at the wrist and making sure that wrist is extending. Do we have full supination as well of that, of that wrist and elbow?
Mm-hmm.
Because when we're throwing, we go straight into pronation and wrist flexion. So we're doing that repetitively, and those forearm flexors could get tight. So, just go out there, tell them to kind of stretch into wrist extension and supination with elbow extension. Get into that, against the wall with some neck stretches as well. You can get into those things. But looking at that is very important, and goes a long way if you start early and you attack it, on a consistent basis. But that could also be coming from the whole chain. That could be coming not only just from the wrist. It's probably something from the legs to the core. It's almost 100% like the ability of your core strength to control the force coming from your leg to your arm. So, I of course I'll look at the arm and kind of clean that up. Obviously, wrist motion and elbow motion. But again, we'll go right back to the kinetic chain of legs to core to arm, and have them maybe bring in some video of them throwing maybe, or just look at how they move. And we can then, make up a game plan and say, well, when we're throwing, I see you kind of arching your back and you have this rib flare. I know a lot of the pro baseball players. I know Corey Kluber works on this all the time with Eric Cressy on his rib flare, where when he's working out and stuff like that, he's constantly making sure that he's not just opening up his rib cage. He's staying closed down there so he doesn't lose any energy, and he's able to just get quickly to the throw. So a lot of that is in the adolescence. We see that it's not so much that they have they don't have the ability to throw with the velocity or with the accuracy. It's more that they just don't have the mechanics and the form to continue doing that. That's the difference that you see from like the pro level to like the high school level. Is the high school level athlete just doesn't have that mechanics, the form and the mechanics as precise as the pro does. And the pros, their mechanics, they're able to keep this. They're able to keep this down. They're able to keep the rib flare from coming up. Everything is engaged here, and they're able to get on top of the ball and kind of almost not overwork the arm at that point. So sometimes elbow pain is usually just overusing your shoulder because you're not getting the requisite strength coming from your core. And so the shoulder's like, well, I'm not getting any strength from my core, so now I'm going to have to cock back a little bit more. I'm going to have to rotate a little bit more. And guess at the end of the chain, the elbow's like, I'm getting the end of the stick here. Yep. Not because the shoulder is weak, it's because your core isn't stabilizing you.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to twist more at the shoulder, which causes more torque at the elbow. And now we have this whole thing.
Hips, glutes, quads, core, all of it coming together, keeping it tight, keeping it all supporting that rotation. Absolutely. So young high school players, should they be developing when they're in their weightlifting programs, their exercise programs? I know a lot of it, especially being a young athlete myself, it was all based on power. I didn't really learn too much about the core and all of that stuff, engaging the core and just the form and the technique of my training. It was all just about getting strong, big biceps, big chest, big legs, big. Um, when they're coming in to see you when they're working out, are they mainly focusing on the technical aspect of their exercise?
They're working on they're yeah, I'm putting them in the position. So I'm putting them in, maybe if they're righty, I'm putting them in like a left reverse lunge, kind of like when you finish as a pitcher, right? When you're in that phase, you have your left leg is probably forward, right? You stepped with the left, your right arm is up, you're almost in this type of lunge thing. So I'll put them in that position, and I'll do some Paloff presses with them there. I'll get them in this position and have them do some, end range liftoffs there. I'll have them focus on keeping the rib cage down with like a little pelvic tuck there, just to emphasize their rib cage down as they move their arm up at the same time into some sort of pattern.
Very nice.
So yeah, we're attacking, going right to their problem, right to where they kind of come up here, rib cage comes up. Oh, let's stop there. Let's go before that. Let's come here, ribs down. Okay, hold the rib down there, and now come up and down 5 times. So now they're not bypassing it. They're going, before the movement, starting with the basics, and layering strength on top of that.
I love that. I could really, really visualize exactly what it is that I'm working on and engaging, especially with the ribs down, engaging my core. I can truly see it. So I hope anyone else who's listening, you could also visualize it. If you can, I'll put some pictures up in the videos on YouTube so you can see exactly what it is that he's talking about if you also can't visualize it. But moving on, one of the things that I also noticed with I'm not sure if it's position players, pitchers as well, but I believe it's mainly with position players and swinging, oblique issues. They have some oblique tears, oblique strains. Why do they get that? And what is it that they can do strength-wise to help with it?
Yeah, so I think oblique strains happen. Maybe they can happen a few ways. If you're like not really warmed up fully, if you're going into hitting during off season, I see obliques in it's like either in the beginning of the season or at the end of the season, so it's like the beginning of the season because you just got into swinging, now you're doing, you went from not doing anything in the off season or maybe whatever, once a week of some cage work to, tee work and cage work and live pitching, 3-4 times a week. Now you instead of like 10 to 30 swings a week, you're doing 100 to 200 swings a week. That quick progression, it's not gradual, that quick progression could lead to that overuse in the oblique. So that's more in that like early season where it's too early, too soon, just too much too soon type of thing, where it's you just that repetitive motion maybe you're not used to, and that can kind of lead to it. So that, how do we prevent that? Just making sure that you're programming. You're starting with just, a few swings a day. You don't have to overdo it. Start with no bat, maybe just kind of just getting into the movement first. Payload presses are great for that, where you're just here holding, you don't even have to rep it out. In the beginning, I just have the athletes who have these issues, I have them just hold it for 10 breaths, making sure their exhale is audible. I want to hear that exhale because guess what? Your oblique muscles, they do exhale, right? Just like your bicep does arm curling, your obliques, they do that. So every time you hear me exhale, that's my obliques contracting. So I want to make sure I hear that. I'll have them do that early on. And then, I'll make sure that they're gradually doing more isometrics, right? That's why we're doing Paloff pressing and holding, holding for 10 breaths, which is accumulation of almost, 45 seconds. So holding that 45 seconds, I'd start maybe with a regular plank first, basic, just 30 seconds, 5 times, just hold that position, then maybe going into a side plank and seeing if they can tolerate that. Modify it on the knees first, see if they can just hold that position. So for the first couple of weeks, I'm just holding. We're not doing any rotation yet. We're not doing any rotation. The rotations would get you into trouble because you did it too early and too soon. It was too much too soon of it. So we want to take the rotation away, but just do the isometric. So stabilize it without rotating. So we don't rotate early on. We just kind of build up the endurance back into it. And then, after 4 to 6 weeks, maybe even 6 weeks, because that's what it takes to build up basic strength, because after an injury, your muscles kind of go on vacation. They protect, they get weak, they get tight. So we have to do a strength program, 6 to 8 weeks of just building basic strength. So this will look like Paloff press holds, side plank holds. You can get into your lunges. You can get into your squats. You can get into your single leg squats. You can get into some what else? You can probably get into any sort of rowing activities. That's always good for building up back and core health. And all the while, you're keeping this new foundation of rib cage down. That this is the new thing. Everything is core. You're not just waiting to do your planks at the end of the workout. Everything is core. When you're rowing, you're still feeling it. So, still incorporating that, doing that for 6 to 8 weeks. And then at that 6 to 8 week mark, we start, incorporating some rotations and see how we feel. And depending on the athlete, we'll progress them gradually in that range and see how they're doing with that. And slowly do that for another 3-4 weeks of just rotating with bands, rotating with the Paloff press, now maybe doing a thread the needle, with the side plank. And now they're moving a little bit more with obliques. Then we'll do some dry swings, how they feel with dry swings, make sure they're measuring that 24 hours and that night, making sure that their soreness doesn't exceed like a 4 or 5 out of 10, because that means that you did a little too much. Do that for like 3-4 weeks, and then, keep gradually getting back to live swinging and then measuring how they feel with that.
Perfect. That's beautiful. Do you recommend the professional athlete? They are doing that with their training teams and things like that, and their own training programs. But young high school player, young collegiate athlete, do you recommend that they maintain a workout program, workout routine during the season?
Yeah. Absolutely. So in season, there's these things called the oblique slings. So oblique slings are these diagonal patterns that run throughout the body. From the front side, it's like my pec, my internal obliques, my core to my adductor, and on the back side, it's my lat muscle to my glutes to my other side obliques. So it's these cross patterns that happen throughout the body, front side and back side, that kind of work together, especially in any athletic sport. Especially in all sorts of, even in walking. Walking is the same thing, right? Every time I take a step, my right arm comes forward, right? That's a little pec. That's some oblique action on the right side. And my left leg comes forward, and that is some hip flexor, some adductor on that side. So it's that sling, and it's constantly working back and forth. So, during the in-season work, I like to kind of do the opposite. If they're doing if they're just a righty, they're doing a lot of left rotation, I like to do some right rotation a little bit and get them the opposite way.
Absolutely.
So just to balance them out a little bit mid-season, especially you got to just look at their load. Like, what are they doing? Are they playing 3 times a week? Are they playing only once a week? Are they playing 4 times a week? Are they on 4 different teams? It really depends on the athlete, and then based on that, we'll come up with an in-season program where maybe we're doing the opposite rotation. Maybe we're, jumping off the leg that they're not used to jumping off of. Maybe we're, doing stuff with their left arm rather than their right arm. Maybe we're doing some basic strengthening, right? By some basic bench pressing, some basic rowing, right? Two arm stuff. Because in season it's all one arm stuff. Great, one arm, one arm, one arm. Maybe we're doing bilateral rows. Maybe we're doing bilateral pushing, two arms, everything. And then when we get to their off season, that's maybe when we'll continue more bilateral stuff, and then gradually get to single arm and single leg stuff as they approach their season again, and then again and then the whole cycle repeats itself.
That's amazing. With that said, people, we're out of time. Just to touch on the points, people stretch, and post stretch, you should have a nice film in your body, a nice sweat. Focus on your flexibility, focus on your core engagement, and balance out your work. Whether it is, like you're saying, you're doing your single leg side, make sure you're doing the other side, make sure you're working on your body in a balanced and full rounded way. So that were the highlights of this episode. So please go back, check it out, because I believe that Antonio has hit so many cues for all of the young athletes, professional athletes, mom, dads who want to be active with their children on Sundays, on Saturdays. Everyone can utilize and benefit from the information that he just provided. So please go back, listen to the episode, and utilize some of the things that At the Boxing Doc is helping us with. Don't forget, he's working over at ProMet PT, at the Boxing Doc on Instagram. You can follow him and support him and what he's got going on. Follow me over at Kinetic Remedy. We'll have much more coming for you. Antonio, with that said.
Yeah, so that was great. Yeah, awesome. So I think that's the big takeaways is definitely to have that proper warm up, and making sure that there's this. We have a YouTube page, prometpt.com, or on YouTube, Promet Therapy, where you can go and look at some of these stretches. There's a couple of what we mean by this rib cage down idea, and if you need to kind of visualize it, they go right to the ProMet Physical Therapy page, and there'll be some videos there that you can watch to kind of start practicing that. But yeah, just think, sometimes the area of injury, right, the area that you're feeling pain, it's sometimes not the area that we need to treat, right? We sometimes need to look at the other areas surrounding that area and kind of see what's going on there to help with that. So just make sure that you ask us any questions, and keep that open mind as you go through your sport, as you go through your exercise, as you engage in your health, and try to become the best version of yourself that you can. So we'll see you guys next time, and hopefully we'll get some feedback and see what else we can improve on.
Sounds good. Thank you, brother. Have a great day. Everyone, have a great day.
Sure.
Dude, that was amazing.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that we hit on the oblique slings, because that's something that more for the athletic population, they need to benefit from that. It's all single leg work. It's lunging. It's all single arm work. It's all those things that help with kind of bringing in that core, making sure you're moving your extremities but keeping the core tight. So that's these slings that work constantly, and then the programming is big. Like, what do we do in season? What do we do off season? What do we do when we're getting close to season? And working everything bilaterally in the off season, and then progressing to single arm, single leg as they approach their season. And then in the season, we're doing more kind of opposite stuff, maybe going to more bilateral stuff, easing it off their single leg, and then off season back to bilateral, then slowly back to unilateral, and then it just repeats itself. So I think that's definitely a good way to maintain strength throughout the whole year.
Yeah, no, this is really, really tremendous. I hope that everyone can see how priceless this really all is. Like, yeah, I could see how just listening to this, I'll go to the gym and just try to apply everything you're saying, because it's everything for strength, for longevity,
Yeah, it's longevity, bro. It's longevity. You know, it's tough. Like you want to follow a bodybuilding program, and you know you want to follow this like this fat loss program. Just don't forget the basics, right? Don't forget your basic stupid little things. It's like, you know, even you know, you got to press, you know, even you know, we all know it. You know, even everyone almost. There's a lot of people who are parents too, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you know, you're telling your child to warm up and, you know, make sure you eat your veggies or whatever, and it's like you're not even doing it. So what example are you leaving? What you gotta be, you have to do the work yourself. You know, you have to put in that inside work, and you're only gonna get out what you put in. You know, you give what you get, and that's it. So, you know, you're only as good as what you tell yourself and what your mind will embrace, because you know, if you don't do the inner work and you don't do what needs to be done, you know, who the hell is going to do it, you know? So
that's a fact. Amen, man. But I'm very happy that we are executing exactly what we discussed setting out to do, with helping people with just the understanding and the application of it, because we are hitting everything each week. It seems to get clearer and clearer and more concise. So anyone who is listening, they're going to truly benefit, and we're going to help some people. So
yeah, 100%.
Tremendous. Yeah, man. And next week I really have it. I have it planned. I have it mapped out in my mind that we're going to have our first somehow get together and put it together with the three cues of where is it? Soft tissue, soft massage, mobility, stretching, and activation. Those are the three things I want to touch on next week, so we can get something live and start from the ground up with feet, calves, hips, back, shoulders. Yeah. We can put together a nice little unit of information and send it to a place where people can sort of tap into to get it.
Absolutely. Let's probably aim for maybe like a Friday night almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, where we can film out a bunch of shit. We can go to my gym over here or in Glendale over there near Forest Hills, and just you know, bang out at least 3 or 4 videos. You know.
Yeah,
so maybe Friday night.
Definitely make that happen, 110%. So yeah, I'll try to. So yeah, let's try to shoot for maybe Friday night. We'll keep that in mind.
All right, cool. Sounds good, man. Good.
All right, brother. Yeah, you guys are definitely not running today, obviously.
Yeah, they just hit me up like, are we doing it today? These guys are sick fucks. They'll run in the fucking rain. Me, I don't need to get sick. I don't need to fucking kill myself. They could fucking kill themselves, but I'm not, you know, what the fuck do I need to do? I need to run in the rain today? No.
Yeah, for what? I'm not fighting in 2 weeks. I don't need to do any of that crap anymore.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I might go to the gym and just fucking, you know, just do some warm-ups and shit and run in there.
Yeah,
I'll see if they want to do that, but I mean, I'm not, you know, I don't need to get sick today, you know?
110%, dude, 110%. All right, brother, sounds good. Have a great day. Enjoy your week. Eat well. Drink light if you are having a good time this weekend from Memorial Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
Thank you. You too, man. I'll talk to you maybe Wednesday or Thursday. Set a Friday. Confirm Friday.
Sounds good, man. All right. Have a great day.
Likewise. Peace.